Welcome, America East alums, to our next virtual programming session. We are joined with Erik Johnson from the Bulfinch Group. Today, we're going to be talking about the topic of virtual interviewing and hiring. So jumping in right into our first question here, Erik, as a job seeker, what are some of those things to pay attention to when preparing for a virtual interview?
So, I always say, what would you have done in a non-virtual interview, right? Is look, doing homework and making sure that you know something about the person you're meeting with, something about the company that you're interested in, something about the position, having good questions. Those are timeless, whether you're virtual or in person, right? So, look, I think the simple answer is the more that you can treat a virtual interview like a real interview, the better you're going to be, right? So if you were going to be dressed properly, dress properly. If you're going to show up early and be there, make sure that you're there early. Don't log in at 2:01 for 2 o'clock, right? Make sure that you're sitting up straight. You've got a professional environment, those kinds of things, and try to make it as much like you were in the same room with them as possible.
Now, how can both an applicant and a hiring manager navigate not having that face-to-face element during these virtual job interviews?
Yeah, so look, I can tell you from a hiring side, we have worked as a hiring group, as a leadership group, to create an interview experience that, just like I gave advice to an applicant, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to say, hey, can we create an environment where an applicant feels like, wow, I just went in and I had a great Bullfinch experience in terms of meeting people, understanding culture, and those kinds of things. So we've tried to have multiple people meet with someone. So, like, let's say in the pre-COVID world, Jessica, you were coming in to interview. You'd walk in, someone would greet you, right? Hey, my name is Jessica. Oh, great, Jessica. Yeah, we're expecting you. Please sit down. I'll let Pete know you're here, right? And you might go to Pete's office for 45 minutes or something like that. And then Pete would either walk you over to Erik's office, or Sally's office or whatever, or maybe walk you back out to the lobby because Sally was in a meeting and, hey, she'll come and get you in 5 minutes or something like that, right? We actually try to create the same thing virtually, right? Whereas, okay, Jessica, hey, thanks for logging in today. Great to have you. All right. So Erik comes into the meeting. You've had the login. You just click the link, right? And then, Erik, you and I speak for 45 minutes or whatever. And at the end, hey, Pete comes in and you see him come in on the screen. Oh, Pete, good to see you. Hey, Jessica and I were just finishing up. Oh, great. Hey, and we really try to give them the same experience. And so again, I just say, the best virtual world to me is creating a more efficient real world, right? And so if we can try to get all the things we can do face to face, look, I think applicants and businesses can take something from the college admissions stuff, in terms of virtual tours and office visits and things like that people are doing virtually. There's some universities that are really on the cutting edge of that kind of thing, and I think that's going to be the way of the future on interviewing as well.
Now, you talked a little bit about it in the beginning of our conversation here. Despite the interviewing process being held online, those virtual interviews should be treated and conducted like you were in the office. And so for our alums who may have never experienced a virtual interview or a virtual setting, jumping on Zoom or a different platform, how can you expand upon how they kind of can feel for that virtual interview and kind of have a
Sure.
successful interview?
Sure. So look, in general, I think it's always better to show respect with your dress. It's funny. I have a buddy who's an executive recruiter, and one of the things that he and I used to joke about when I was interviewing was, Erik, there's certain jobs that if you don't wear a tie, you're not getting the job. And obviously, I'm speaking to men, but he said there's other jobs where if you wear a tie, you're not getting the job, right? So his point was, know your industry, know your culture, know what you're getting into, right? He said, in some of these tech startups, whatever, you walk in with a suit and tie, they're going to be going, who's this old guy, right? I don't know, he would never fit our culture, right? And yet there's other maybe some of these big financial firms on the top floor of some big office building in Boston, where, yeah, if you didn't show up buttoned up, boy, they probably doesn't fit our culture, right? So look, we joke all the time. Obviously, I was a women's basketball coach for a long time, and the women have so many more different choices in terms of dress and what's dressy and what's not, right? Guys, it's like coat, no coat, tie, no tie, right? Women can go blouse, jacket, all kinds of different things. And look, obviously, we're talking about in the virtual world, right? The upper half of your body and all that. But look, in general, right? Try to get it right, right? Try to wear the right thing that will send the right message. And again, you won't always get it right perfectly, right? But go for it. And as you mentioned, the type of atmosphere, right? Look, one of the things we know is that in this whole work from home environment, I'm sure you deal with it, right? Is, hey, kids need something. There's somebody, a fire truck drives by, the Amazon, person comes to the door and the dog starts barking, right? I mean, there's certain things that we can't deal with, that we can't just, we might wish they went away, but they won't. Just be prepared for those things. Be okay with it. Don't get freaked out, right? Apologize, right? But try to be as professional as you possibly can. Be as personal as you possibly can. Show yourself. Be engaged, right? The worst thing I will tell you that I see is people who think they can get away with texting while they're talking to me. You can't get away with it. I can tell. Jessica, you're doing a great job. You're looking in my eyes, right? And I know you're trying to decide, is the camera or where is Erik or whatever, right? But I can tell when someone gets distracted and starts doing this stuff, right? While I'm talking. Now, that being said, taking notes in an interview is a really good thing. And so being intentional about saying, now, Jessica, while you're talking, as long as, is it okay with you if I take some notes and I show you my piece of paper and my pen, right? So now when you see me look down, it's a very different thing, right? As I'm going, oh, and I'm writing, right? That's different from, I can tell when someone's phone buzzes and they go like this. Oh, I wonder who's texting me. Really? Like, how about we put the phone away? So anyway, there's a few tips.
Yeah, those are great tips. Thanks for providing those. And my last question for you is, do you see businesses choosing to keep their interviews virtual? And if so, how is that going to change the game for job seekers and employers?
Yeah. So the answer is yes, not all of them. So yes, I think so. I'll use our firm for an example. 100% of our interviewing and training was in person before March, right? And now 100% of our interviewing and training has been virtual. Now, will we ever go back to 100% in person? No, I don't think so, right? We've learned so many efficiencies and so many things that, like, hey, why make somebody, because we have a pretty elaborate interview process. So does it really make sense to make Jessica get time off of work or drive in 4 different times to meet different people when we could probably do some of that virtually? Absolutely, right? That makes, we can take care of people's lives. We can take care of our schedules better, right? Absolutely. But will it go back to in person in some ways? Yes, of course, right? There's some things that we're dying for, that we would love to have in a true face to face. But we've learned a lot, and I think a lot of companies are in the same spot.
Well, thank you, Erik, for joining us on this episode and this topic, virtual interviewing and hiring, such a different space that we are under our circumstances. So thank you for giving us some insights today.
Now, my pleasure.